Lord. Hallelujah. And thank you, Jesus. It's around that time right here on KAZ Radio, where I have one of my most favorite shows, none other than Christian Networking Entrepreneurs with Pastor Shalonda Johnson. Take it away, Pastor.
Hey, everybody. Welcome again. Another month, another session, another awesome guest we have here on Christian Networking Entrepreneurs. Now, I put a post out earlier. All of my entrepreneurs need to be on. So I need you to tag someone, invite someone in, because this is some vital information that we're going to get today. We are coming upon tax season, and we want to know what to do and how to do it. And so we can make sure that we don't have to spend a lot of money and we can get some money back if necessary. So on today, our guest is Malika Brown. Malika Brown is a tax guru, a tax expert. Case in point is why we have her here today. So welcome, Malika.
Hi, thank you for having me on.
Yes, now, if you notice that we're in different locations, because Malika is in Atlanta, in the ATL right now, probably with warm weather today.
No, it's cold here today.
Is it? Oh, wow. Okay. So at least we're in the same boat.
Yes.
But we're so glad to have you on. I've watched you for the last couple of years, and I've watched you do a couple of different businesses. I've watched you literally take steps to do some different things, and now you're into tax preparation. And I even see how you took the time to be diligent into learning your craft. So tell us a little bit about Malika. How did Malika get into tax?
Okay, so I actually got licensed as a hairstylist in 2009. So as you're growing your clientele and you're trying to find your place in the industry, you know you're going to have slow seasons. So on the slow seasons, I started preparing taxes for family and friends. Honestly, like a tax preparer messed up my taxes, and that was it. And after that, I started learning how to do taxes and could do it for other people. And then I started to marry that when I owned my own salon. So that's when profit and loss statements became a big thing. Really tracking your deductions became a big thing. So I was like, okay, I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I just need to implement it. Then we had the pandemic. And when the pandemic came around, there were so many different opportunities for small businesses, but we did not have the paperwork to back it up. So that's what made me want to create, because in the beauty and barber space, we're not taught technically how to run a business, how to file taxes. But I think for any entrepreneur, it's a matter of running our businesses. I always tell my clients like a corporation, like a Walmart, even if it's just you, even if you just started, because what it's going to do is you're putting your business in a place to grow. So that's why I started the tax preparation, and then it actually expanded into bookkeeping, because a lot of small businesses weren't bookkeeping for their businesses. And, you know, it's a couple of different things that bookkeeping helps to have that implemented into your business. But yeah, that's kind of how I got here. And I love it in this space. I never thought I was a numbers girl, ever. I just like money. I just like to make money and be profitable in my business. But now I really am on a mission to teach people about financial literacy.
Got it. So are you still doing hair, or are you still a beautician, or are you doing both?
Yes, so I say I moonlight as a hairdresser now, every now and again. So I do teach extension methods as well, and the hair growth coach is also my brand. So I'm excited what 2022 is going to bring for that.
Got it. So you're multi-talented. You got into this number game. When you said run your business like a Walmart, can you explain that?
So Walmart started as a small business, and they just started to expand. And the only difference between a small business and a Walmart is that they have streamlined systems and processes. Okay. Mm-hmm. So for every goal that they're trying to hit, they're setting performance indicators, which basically just scales, how do I get there and did I hit that mark? In small businesses, we work in our businesses, so it's hard to work on the business, but you have to work on the business. So I think that when I say run like a Walmart corporation, get those systems and processes in place. Like in my industry, we focus so much on the technical and the artistic side. And we're like, hey, I see 20 clients a day. I'm making money. But then you look and your expenses is higher than what you brought in. And you're technically not making money, but you're trading time for money. So I want people to get in the mindset of, let me have all of these systems and processes in place so everything I do in my business is profitable.
Wow, that makes, I love the systems and the processing. And I love what you said as well, because it's something that my husband and I started to notice. There is a difference between working in your business and on your business, a complete different, totally different. So now you're doing both things, and you're in Atlanta right now. So what are you actually doing in Atlanta? Are you doing taxes there as well, or?
So my business is 100% remote. So I'm blessed to have clients all over the country now. Houston, Arizona, California, Florida, Texas. So I'm just, well, Houston is Texas, but I'm just so excited to just be able to work remotely. And I think that the pandemic kind of taught us that we had to pivot how we did business. So I've seen so many people go into the digital space that had never been in the digital space because you need to own your time. So I love the way my business is set up now because I have the freedom to move around. I'm a mom. So if I'm on the road with my kids or I have to go do something, I can do everything I need to do from my phone or my laptop.
Wow. So you said, okay, so how long have you been doing or in the tax industry? Because you named all these different states and these clients. Like, how long have you been doing this?
So I've actually been doing this for 7 years, and I've actually been a actual IRS preparer with the P10 number for over 4 years. I invested during the pandemic in, there is a tax, y'all guys think I'm the tax guru. No, there is a tax guru, and her name is Deidre Pittman out of Orlando, Florida. And she's just like amazing. So I took her training, and that's when she taught us how to run a tax business or a financial based business and doing it ethically and compliantly. Like, we're not scheming or scamming or anything like that. And we're educating people on the correct way to do it. So I actually grew the business because it was so many stylists and barbers who started to tune into the information, and it was like, hey, can you help me? Can you help me? And that's just kind of how it expanded.
Wow. You said you invested in yourself and in your business.
Yes.
So you took the time during the pandemic and you took a class?
Yes. So it was a whole boot camp. It was for 6 to 8 weeks. 6 to 8 weeks. And even after that, now we still have training that she offers us as ongoing support. So yeah, it was important. And I think it's important in any industry, even when you're pivoting, you have to invest in learning how to do the basics. You're going to always find your own way, but to do the basics, you definitely. And I didn't want to put out information that wasn't accurate. I didn't want people to think that I was, this can work on any business. So if you learn it in the business you currently have, you can rinse, recycle, and repeat and put these same systems and processes in each venture you want to go into.
Wow. I think that is so amazing. Like you said, if you learn it, I always tell different people, I even tell my kids, once you learn it, it's yours.
It's yours. Yes.
It's yours, and you can do whatever you need to do with it. So now you're in the beauty industry, you're in the tax industry, and I know this season is about to be extremely busy for you.
Yes.
Extremely busy. So you're coming on, and you talked about doing things ethically and morally right. That's a big thing, especially when we're dealing with, our taxes and our businesses, because most people's business is my livelihood. My business is how I live. So I can't afford to not do things ethically and have an IRS coming after me later.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I definitely, you can still hear me, right?
It's very low. It's very low.
Okay. I think a call was coming in. Okay. I'm sorry about that. Am I back?
It's still kind of low. Yeah, but this tax season is really going to be something very different. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
got it. You bet. So, yeah, so like I said, and this tax season is going to be probably different than any other tax season we've ever seen because of the pandemic. There were so many opportunities for funding. So let's go back a little bit. You were saying that there was a lot of cases where there was a lot of financial funding out here for small businesses, large businesses, any kind of business, but we didn't have the proper tax information. We didn't have the proper documents because I was one that was able to receive the PPP, but I know you had to have some tax information. You had to be able to show some things in order to get these funds.
Yes. So I think it kind of almost goes back to like the basics of, so the IRS considers a business in this way. You have your license or incorporated in the state that you're operating out of. That's number one. You have a federal EIN number, your employer identification number, and the one that everybody forgets, you have to have a business bank account. If you do not have a business bank account attached to that business, the IRS considers you a hobby and not a true business. So it's not even a matter of, oh, I'm just a sole proprietor, I'm just this. If you don't have those three fundamentals, the IRS feels like you're commingling your business money with personal money. Mm-hmm. And they don't like that. So I think that that's the foundation for that. And a lot of people did not even have that one key step of having a business bank account. They're like, hey, I had a separate checking account, but it's personal. It's under your name. So that's one of the major things. So I think businesses definitely need to start there and make sure everything, even if you are operating out of multiple states, you need to understand what the law requirements are. You may need to be incorporated in every single one of those states. And guess what? Now you're subject to tax liability for every one of those states that you operate in. But here's the key. If I want to grow my business to 6 and 7 figures, I cannot be scared of tax liability. So like in my industry, we were taught to underreport your income. We guess. I think I only made 10,000 because I don't want to pay that tax liability. But imagine what an Amazon is paying. So we want to report our real numbers. And that was also a reason why a lot of people did not qualify, because they're like, okay, you're saying you had a business for 5 years, but you've never filed a tax return on the business. So they're like, okay. And that's actually how a lot of people who had real businesses got caught in the fraud portion of it, because there was nothing to back it up. So your paperwork for your business speaks for you when you're not in the room. Just how they say your reputation precedes you, you need that paperwork. And even if you don't have a lot of income, investors, the IRS, everybody just want to see you growing the business. Yeah. So I think that's kind of where why I focus so much on the foundational pieces, because, people are like, well, I don't want to pay a $2,000 liability. It may not even be $2,000 after you come to someone like myself and we ethically give you deductions that you are qualified for. And sometimes you have to pick your battle on the deductions. Like in the industry, my industry, you may have $5,000 worth of deductions that you can take, right? If you are too high and it's going to kind of put your gross down at a number that's not really profitable, I'm going to tell you, we got to pick and choose what deductions we're going to take. We're going to take the ones that make the most sense. And we're going to leave all of those minute ones. We've been taught and conditioned, you can write off everything. You don't want to write off everything.
Yes. This is good, because I just had a conversation with one of my sister-in-laws, and she was telling me what happened was a company that she knew about, a restaurant business or whatnot, they were always taking all of these tax deductions. But when it came time for business credit, when it came time to purchase a vehicle in their business name in a new location, it looked as though they made no money.
Right. And that blocks you out of a lot of things. Yes. So we almost we're our worst enemies sometimes in our businesses, because I get it. We're investing our own money, but that's where we go into learning about business credit, learning another fundamental to implement into your business. And then you won't have to invest. Like, I think I just learned about business credit 2 years ago. Wow. So every dollar that has gotten invested into my business has came out of my pocket.
Mhm.
And that's what we don't want to do. We want to get our businesses to a point where we get people to invest in us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was looking at not so long ago how important your Dunn's number is connected to your business, your Dun and Brad's number, and just different little things that you can do. And guess what? What I noticed, they're not really large things that you need to. There are a lot of little small things that you can do
Yes.
to pivot your business, to put yourself in a position where if something comes up again, like a PPP, which I don't know if this will ever happen again in life. But you position yourself to be able to be one of the ones that can take advantage of it. Because if you were able to take advantage, it had the ability to really put your business, for one, sustain your business.
Yes.
But then give you time to kind of, relook at some things and almost like relaunch after everything was over. Because guess what? Every business had to reevaluate how it operated in order to be successful in this season that we're in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that you said position, because I think it's like, how God says, get in position for what you're about to receive. So I think we have to take that same mindset for our businesses as well, and always strategically position ourselves to be, the next one, like me next.
Exactly. I mean, I really, really think that the opportunities are so there. And that's what I love about the Christian Network Entrepreneurs, because we're bringing on individuals who are just pouring out knowledge. And it is up to you to take what they're saying and implement it in your life, implement it in your business, implement it in whatever it is that you do. So we got these PPP loans that came out, and individuals were able to take advantage of those PPP loans. I mean, it's so many things. The PPP loan, this tax credit that just came out that everybody's getting is $300. So I got a ton of questions. So let's deal with the PPP first. Okay, so now I also know with the PPP, you have the opportunity to get those funds forgiven.
Yes.
So let me ask you this question. If the funds have been forgiven, let's say you submit the necessary documents, because oftentimes I know with the PPP, they may have set it up for like maybe 30% for payroll, 30% for something else, and you just had to align yourself with their criteria. Okay, let's say it's forgiven. How does that work with the taxes?
So right now, the IRS has not given exact instructions of what they're going to, if they're going to make that taxable. For this tax year that just passed, it wasn't taxable if you received one, right? So it's a very high possibility that they may still not make it taxable. However, what you can do if you have already been forgiven, get those records in order. Because remember, you completed that application and you said, hey, I use this for payroll, I use this for utilities, or however else you spent the funds. You need the documentation. So that's what I predict is going to happen, is that all of the forgivenesses are going through. It's a simple application. They're going through, right? The IRS, it's a 51% chance that you may be audited, especially as a small business owner with a Schedule C. So if you're audited, they're going to see you got a PPP loan. They can request that documentation, although it's been forgiven. You see what I'm saying?
Wow,
so that's I think that the people don't understand that the IRS, even though they can go back after you for back taxes for like 3 years and things of that nature, they have a lot of systems and structures in place to combat fraud. And it may not hit you in the beginning, but it could mess you up at the end. So I just encourage anybody who has PPP loans is that you need to go back, and there needs to be some type of written documentation of payroll, and there needs to be written documentation of the utilities that you pay. Even if you just use your business bank statements, that's why that's important, because you can just highlight the lines that you paid out for the money, because remember, the money only got deposited into business bank accounts.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So one thing I was strategic about doing is I never normally use checks. Never. But this time I use a check for everything. Because only thing I had to do was go to my bank manager and say, hey, print out all the council checks,
Yes.
And I can submit it that way. But it's like, it's on record. There's a whole council check that said in the bottom, payroll, lights, gas. Because one thing about it is that although the PPP was implemented because of what was going on, in essence, it was a really big blessing for a lot of us. I know it definitely was for me and my family.
It was definitely a blessing for my family, especially. I think it was so sad to me that so many people needed the money and could not get the money. And these were business owners that I know worked hard in their businesses, but they just didn't have the back end structure. So it's like, it's almost kind of like whatever industry you're in, talent or knowledge is only 20% of that. 80% of that is business. It's all business. It's all business.
That I love it. I love it. And I love what you were talking about too, about don't be afraid that at the end of the day, if you calculate and you you do everything that you're supposed to do and you end up owing, let's say you owe $1,000 or $2,000, it reminds me of a statement that one of my sisters use all the time, is that scared money don't make money.
That's it. That's it. Scared money doesn't make any money. And again, so I hate that like social media blindly puts out information. Like they're like, hey, build a business credit. All you need is a DUNS number, EIN number, and this and that. Well, you need, depending on, you're trying to go from, I just started my business, I want to go get $50,000 in funding. You can't do that. It's a process. You have to walk yourself up. But again, you may have to pay some things along the way and all of that. But scared money doesn't make any money.
I know it sounds so slang, but it is so accurate. It is so accurate, because and one thing I was learning is that if you're truly in business, then you have to be able to move like a business owner. You can't be afraid to if I want to move like a Walmart, then I have to say, okay, if this is what I owe or this is what I need to do in order to pivot the business, because if it's a good business with a good structure, you're gonna make money.
Absolutely.
You're gonna make it back.
I know some guys that are like business owners that are wealthy now, and they talk about when they first started their businesses, that they would inflate their numbers, like their profits. They would inflate their profits and just pay whatever the tax was on the profits, because the bigger thing was, we need to get in these rooms. We need to get in these rooms. So I definitely wouldn't suggest that. But what I will suggest is, like, you don't have to be scared of the IRS. Yes. If you have a tax liability, they have so many programs that can help people with tax liability. They'll set up payment plans for a year or 2 years or 3, depending on what you owe, and it won't affect your current tax year. You'll just automatically have an agreement with them for whatever years that you owe. But I think people are scared of the IRS, and you don't know that you accrue daily interest. Every time they send you a letter and they say you owe $3,000, well, every day you're gaining interest on that $3,000. So you want to communicate with them. So that way you'll still accrue the interest, but it may not be at that rate as if you didn't answer, because it's almost like you're ignoring them, because everybody knows what an IRS letter looks like. And you like, I don't want to open it, but you do need to open it so you can get on top of it as soon as possible.
Another thing I realized is that if the IRS owes you money, they pay you interest. If it's after a certain amount of time, because it was a funny thing just this week. I was going through the mail, and I found myself going through the mail a lot more because I'm a business owner. I can't afford not to see something. And there was a check in my mail from the IRS, and I was like, "Oh, thank you, Jesus!" But at the bottom of it, it said the amount of interest that was accrued because they were late paying me the money.
Yes, absolutely.
In the memo.
Absolutely.
And I was like, oh, so they pay interest too.
Yes, they take interest, and then they'll pay interest as well if they owe you. And I think people don't like to go through the process because it's so long, it's so drawn out. But what people didn't understand is that the IRS actual employees are just now getting back in the office. So everything they've been doing has been remote. So when you were sending things in the mail and all of those things, it just sat in the mail room until somebody is physically in there to do that. So another suggestion is anytime you have to send anything to the IRS, send it certified mail. So you'll have record that they received it. And that's all you need is record that they received it, because beyond that, you don't control the process.
Got it. Yes, yes, yes. So now let's get on to this tax credit that a lot of us got for having children. You know what? This season has been the best season to have kids.
Yes. Yes.
Or you're like, oh my goodness. But now there has been a lot of support for those that have kids. So I think it's like this $300 or $200 per kid that we've been receiving.
Yes. So if you have toddlers, like under the age of 10 years old, you were eligible for the $300. If you have kids older than that, it was $250. But one thing I want to point out is that this is an advance. It's technically not a credit. It's an advance on the child tax credit that you will be eligible for anyway at tax time. So if you normally have a $3,000 child tax credit that you're eligible for, the month that you receive the advance will be deducted from that total advance. But it's a flip side to that, because if you close out the year and you technically, based on your numbers this year, weren't eligible for the child advance credit, meaning you wouldn't have got that amount once you file this upcoming season's taxes, you're going to owe.
Wow.
That's why they gave you the option to opt out.
I did see that.
If you wanted to, you could opt out. And, to me, I didn't have a suggestion like, hey, everybody should opt out. I ended up opting out because I was like, I need the bigger deduction at the end of the year being fully self-employed versus taking, the little bit right now. But some households, it blessed them to get that additional $250 to $300 a month. But I just want people to know the IRS will sometimes try to trick you with the lingo. But it says advance because it's an advance on a credit that you will already be eligible for as a head of household, which is anyone who has dependents.
Got it. So yes, and I use the word credit too. So that's an advance and a credit is two totally different things. Yes. Totally different things. So that's been going on, and we see all of that, kind of transpiring. So let me ask you another question. If you are a business owner, do you file your business taxes and then your personal taxes? Or does that depend on if you're paying yourself as like a W-2 employee or if you're paying yourself as a independent contractor? Okay, so for everybody that has an LLC or a sole proprietor, you should be using a Schedule C. A Schedule C is just an additional form that gets added to your personal tax return. The only time the business becomes completely separate from the actual owner is when you get into S Corp status or corporation status. Okay, so a LLC can pay employees, but an LLC owner can't pay themselves. Okay. Got it. But if I became an S Corp, a S Corp means that the owner or shareholder, I have to take a salary. So now I can put myself on as the owner for a W-2. So old school, we used to do owner's draw where we would just take out money out of the business account or write the check and things like that. The reason that you want to implement payroll into your business is because you pay part of your FICA tax. FICA tax is Social Security and Medicare. If you work a traditional job, you cannot get away from Social Security and Medicare. Self-employment tax is us paying our Social Security and Medicare that we did not pay on our earnings for the year. Okay. So as an LLC, you're going to file that Schedule C, and the tax that you owe is based on the Social Security and Medicare tax. It's 15.3% of what you made. Got it. Got it. So you do the Schedule C for LLC. Yes. If you want to become an S Corp, you have to become an S Corp by March 15th.
of the year that you want to use S Corp election status. S Corp is not an entity. It's a way that the business chooses to be taxed.
Is it a higher tax bracket, or does it?
No, it's not a higher tax bracket, but what it does is it gives you the incentive to pay yourself, to take wages and actually have that FICA tax taken out of the wages. You see what I'm saying? So you lessen your self-employment tax, because in an S Corp, you don't have self-employment tax. You only have that as an LLC because you're being taxed as a corporation. And you can be an LLC taxed as an S Corp. But I think a lot of people don't know what S Corp is and why you want to use an S Corp election.
Got it. So that S Corp allows me to still pay into the Social Security and Medicaid. That money is still being put away, opposed to being an entrepreneur or self-employed. And then I get 65 and there's no money put away unless I individually put it away.
Right. Unless you individually put it away. So that's what you can do too as an LLC owner. If you're not ready to go to S Corp status, because S Corp, you don't file Schedule C's anymore. You file a 1120S. It's a totally different form. A totally different form. And every business is not there yet for it to make sense. If you're only making $20,000 in your business, you can't afford to pay yourself a reasonable salary because you're only making $20,000. So go ahead and pay that little bit of tax liability and just keep growing the business. But for the LLCs, you want to make sure that you are taking 15.3% of what you make. I would do about a month and sit that in a separate account. I think every small business should have 4 business bank accounts. The first one is your revenue and your recurring expenses. These are things that must happen in order for your business to run, okay? All of that should be coming out of the same account. Then you have your marketing account, okay? And I say marketing separately because sometimes you can't afford to market. You see what I'm saying? And in a digital world, you can't afford to market wrong and badly and just waste money and it's not bringing you back a return. The other one is going to be your tax liability. Okay, you start putting money aside for your tax liability. And the IRS, you can even pay them your estimated taxes every quarter. It's a form.
Yeah,
it's a form and you can pay them every quarter, but I would rather have a head start on a $3,000 tax liability bill. If I have $1,200 sitting in the bank, I know I just need to come with the rest, but I can give them a majority. And the fourth one is your miscellaneous. These are things that are not necessary to run the business. It's just things that you want to do for the business. And every time revenue comes in, you need to be allocating a percentage of that revenue to those separate accounts. Just to keep everything, running, and you can see the numbers, you can see what you can afford to do, because a lot of times we can't afford to do nothing in our businesses and we be running on red and don't even realize we're running on red in the business.
Yes, I think that first few years it's just like just making it.
Yes.
Just making it. And I think too, I love what you were saying, because that you have to have a realistic expectations as to, are you ready for an S Corp? It doesn't mean that you won't get it eventually, but right now, technically where you sit, are you ready?
Right, absolutely. And you can get business credit without an S Corp. You see what that's what I mean by information being blindly put out there. You can get business credit without an S Corp. And once you actually build the business credit, you probably will be in a better position to turn into an S Corp, because now you're not using the day-to-day profits to run the actual business. But one of the requirements for S Corp status is to be able to pay yourself a reasonable salary.
So what are some of the other requirements for an S Corp?
So they don't have a monetary requirement, like you need to be making this certain amount, but that's really the biggest thing. The owner or the majority shareholder, and a cool thing about S Corp is you can have up to 100 shareholders. within your S Corp. So if I had 4 kids, I could make my kids shareholders in my S Corp, and I could be the managing shareholder that runs the day-to-day corporation. I could pay myself, I could pay my children. So now we're going to get a tax deduction because we done paid into FICA already. Plus, if I have shareholders, I have to pay them out dividends on what the business makes. So that's also going to be another tax deduction for me. So I think, so the requirements for S Corp are just super low. However, the IRS wants you to also pay your taxes estimated versus quarterly versus annually as well too. So that'd be one thing. Also, you have to have shareholder meetings. That can simply be you and whoever else is in the business get together. You guys write out an agenda, meeting minutes of what you guys talked about and all of those different things. So that's another small requirement that you have to have. You have to have annual shareholder meetings.
Got it. So I've seen sometimes where, especially in different schools, I've seen it that there's a shareholders meeting or a board meeting and such and such, because I think it has to be announced.
It just kind of depends on when you run how you set your business up. So even if you're an LLC, you should have an operating agreement. Meaning if you were to sell your business to me today, or I'm coming in as a potential investor, I should know how this business operates.
Yes. On
paper. Okay. So it's the same thing with a S Corp, except those are articles of incorporation. It states exactly who are the shareholders, who's on the board. S Corps have to have a board. You have a president, a vice president, a treasurer, a secretary, and these can be all people in your family, if that's what you choose to do, or people in your circle. So it's very minute. I think that once you become an S Corp, though, you can't elect back not to be an S Corp.
Okay.
Like, this is too hard.
Change your mind later.
Because the IRS will actually ban you from becoming an S Corp in that business for 3 years after that.
Wow. See, and this is why I said these opportunities to sit with you is just amazing, because I think everyone, when they start a business, automatically just thinks of LLC.
Yes.
And you don't think your business has the ability to be an S Corp. Because let's face it, when you say S Corp, it sounds like the real deal. It sounds like this person is making crazy money.
Yes, no, but if your business idea or the way it's going to be structured makes sense to be an S Corp, you can start off as an S Corp. You just have to be willing to do the work to stay compliant with being an S Corp.
Got it. So now let's say one thing we kind of heard these terms a lot because of where we were going with the pandemic is contractor versus a payroll employee.
Yes. So a payroll employee is a W-2 employee. Okay. You control what days they work. You control how much they get paid. That is an employee. On the flip side of them being your employee, you pay unemployment insurance for them. You pay workman's comp for them and whatever additional things that you want to add. But those are the basics. So to become an employer in your state, you have to sign up with workman's comp. You have to sign up with unemployment insurance. So if you're not doing that, technically that person is not your employee. And your contractor is anybody that, you're going to contract work, but you need to be issuing them a 1099 at the end of the year for any services that they provided to you over the tune of $600, $400 to $600.
Got it. And then they have to take care of their own taxes. So they need to go to their tax preparer and take care of those taxes, because I have a lot of contractors. But I don't take out their taxes. It is very known, like, hey, you're responsible for this on your end.
Absolutely. So they're responsible for that on their end. And how that helps you is that anytime you issue a 1099, it automatically goes to the IRS. So your business is covered as I paid out these contractors. Now, where contractors mess up, they get the 1099s and they never file them.
Mhm.
And that's, the IRS doesn't like that. That's untaxed income that they want you to pay taxes on. So that's the only thing. So it works for the business. So I know a lot of people say, hey, I pay my contractors in cash. Like, no, it needs to be documented and not through Cash App or anything like that. It needs to actually be documented how you pay them.
So what I found out, and you know what, I'm so glad we're having this discussion, because a lot of these things, they're really not hard to implement, because I was able to find out that I can just go ahead and set up the payroll account through your personal bank. And that covers you just going through an ACH, or either if you write a check, typically an ACH, but that covers you as a entrepreneur, a business owner, just there. And it's really not hard, and it's very simple. You talked about those different accounts. So when we were setting up the business, I remember saying, why don't we have all of these accounts for the business? But as we start going along, I understood why you need not just one account, you need an operating account and all these other different accounts.
Absolutely. And like you said, you can go to your bank and get on payroll. Square Payroll allows you to pay contractors. ADP allows you to pay just contractors. But what it does, it creates a record. So if people noticed, when you could apply for PPP, you could use your tax returns, or you could use payroll journals from a payroll provider. So if you had payroll running, you could have just used those records. It's validation.
Because that would have covered the payroll protection.
Yes. That would have been one of the requirements, because it would have showed who you paid out, who's on your payroll, how much you're paying them. And that could have increased or decreased your number that you received for that amount. But it's all about, like, everything we spoke about today is all about paperwork, having the paperwork.
So do you recommend that a business, a small business, or any business at all, have a personal tax preparer that they, or an accountant that they consult with throughout the year? Because maybe you can't afford to talk with your, have someone every month or so, but like every quarter, look at the books and look at what's going on, just to make sure you're aligning yourself properly.
Yes. So I even offer that service for small businesses, where I'll do quarterly reviews for them. At minimum, if you don't have a personal bookkeeper on your team or a tax preparer, you can utilize QuickBooks. You can be your own bookkeeper. You may just need someone, invest the money to have somebody set it up for you, so everything is accurate, and all you have to do is just run everything through there, and it's going to produce the reports that you want. But I think that all small businesses needs to build their A team. Okay. And I think that a bookkeeper, because your bookkeeper and your tax preparer may not be the same people.
Okay.
So a tax preparer can work once a year. Just give me your stuff and I can go ahead and, file it. But to find a bookkeeper is a little bit different, because that's really a standalone service by itself.
Okay.
So a lot of people that self-prepare, you definitely want to do QuickBooks or Fresh Wave accounting. And you don't want the lowest tier of those programs. You want to get like that mid tier, so you can get all your financial statements. But at minimum, if you can pay somebody, go to them quarterly.
So what's the difference? Okay, you talked about a bookkeeper. So what does this bookkeeper do for your business?
So the bookkeeper does that. They manage the books. They make sure that all that money incoming and money outgoing is documented. They help you with profitability, because we're able to set up your reports where I can tell you how many, you and your husband have a transportation company. I can tell you what vendors are paying you the most based on, and look at how much you're getting from each vendor. In my industry, this is going to help one or two things. It's going to let me know what's working in the business and what's not. So I manage the financial statements. Majority of the time, business owners don't want to mess with the numbers. They don't want to mess with the numbers, but you need to, because you need to see, oh, wow, I brought in $7,000, but I had $6,000 worth of expenses. Now, because you can see it, I can go back and help you as a bookkeeper. Hey, We need to get rid of this. Is this necessary? Is that necessary?
Yeah.
So it's almost like that person to watch your back.
And it's so funny because we talk about this with personal credit sometimes. It's and I use this analogy. It's almost like getting naked in front of somebody.
Yes.
You're giving me all of your information, everything. But I love what you said, because just because money is coming in does not mean you are necessarily making money.
Right. Absolutely.
Because you see a cash flow doesn't necessarily mean that you're just making all of this money. So you got a $7,000 check here, a $5,000 check here, but then you look at payroll, and payroll is $9,000. It's like, okay, wait, what's going on here?
Mm-hmm. So a bookkeeper manages that for you.
Yes.
So I think any business would be beneficial for it.
And I think, and you know what, and I say this all the time, at the end of the day, I am in business to make money.
Yes. Yes.
That's the objective. It is not a cuss word in the body of Christ. It is not. I am in business to make money and to grow. I am not. I love you. When you said that the IRS says it's a hobby if you don't have a checking account. If you're not making money, it's a hobby.
Yes, it is. And you know what? It's so funny because the clients that I have now, that's been with me since like Q1 of this year, they was like, "What? I made what? I don't feel like I made that." That's because your expenses were all over the place and stuff. And it's so funny because now they'll text me, "Hey, Malika, hey, can I afford to buy this? Can I afford to do that?" It is so funny to me, but I love that they're conscious.
Yeah.
So every month when I meet with them, they get a goal. Okay, you made $5,000. Let's see if we can do, what other things can we implement so you can make more money. But you only know that if you know the numbers.
And you know what? I'm like I said, I'm really excited because we can't be afraid of numbers.
No.
We cannot be afraid of numbers. And I often look at these Fortune 500 companies. They are not afraid of these conversations. They're not afraid of these meetings. I just will be so excited when we get to the point where I'm excited to meet with Malika this month. I can't wait to see what happened this month. What does the numbers look like this month? How have we grown? And sometimes we don't realize that we have unnecessary expenses until we sit down and we're forced to look at it.
Yes, absolutely. Like I literally, and that's a good thing about a bookkeeper because I have time to go line by line and go through your stuff. So I'm like, you went to Panera Bread 5 times this week. They be like, but it's like, you told me that you want to invest in this $1,200 course. We can't make those type of, you know what I mean? We have to be strategic. And I think that that's the only difference between us and corporations. They spend money. They spend out a lot of money, but they are strategic about where they are putting that money. So I think if we get that mindset and we're not scared to check your bank account, you should be checking your business bank account daily. Because if you have a bad week, you need to know that you need to already be prepared for next week. And I always tell my business owners, and I hold myself to this standard too, that if I cannot afford to continue to sustain my business for at least 30 days, if I didn't have one client.
Wow. Yeah. And I love what you were talking about, being able to see or forecast and make necessary adjustments based on just the environment of what's going on, because we do own a transportation company and we deal with schools. One thing that is always in the forefront of my head is that you have to be prepared for December and January, which are the 2 months that have the least amount of days of school.
Right. And that's forecasting. So when you go to a bank to get a loan and they want these financial statements bigger than just your profit and loss, that's all they're doing. We're forecasting if you can pay us our money back that you say that you want to borrow. So you doing that, you're already setting, because that means this month you're going to move differently because you know those months are coming up. And a lot of times people don't look at that in a business, especially if you have to trade time for money. You actually work in your business, or it depends on if you go vend, you do pop-up shops, you do this, you do that. Okay, what if you get sick? if you're the only person that knows how to do what you do for your business, you're not making any money. So that's when it goes into, okay, I wish I had saved a little bit more for my business. I wish I had lowered the expenses when I needed to, but it can all be turned around. And I think people think they got so far in a hole, you can't go back, but you can.
Yes. It's you were talking about too, like if you're the only person like in the business. Now, I have my glitz and glam. That's my fun business. I call it my fun business. But at the end of the day, I had to really relook at pop-up shops. Am I spending more money to prepare for a pop-up shop than I'm making?
I absolutely was. When so I used to make medical grade wigs for cancer patients and stuff. So, when the vending was really hot, like I was going to everything because I'm like, I just want to get my brand out there. But my target market, a lot of the times, wasn't even in that room.
Yeah. Yep.
And now I spent $100 on a table and I didn't make any money. And then I'm not thinking about email marketing or get their email so you can send them marketing, or you're not thinking about those things. So it becomes a loss. So like you said, you have to be more strategic about anytime I launch a program or I launch something, I've already broken it down from A to Z. This is how I'm going to get it out here. This is how we're going to market it. This is how much I expect to sell. And once it's all said and done, I'm going to go back and look at those key performance indicators like Walmart. What worked? What didn't work? Who needs to get fired? Just that's what they do.
So it's so funny because I'm laughing because at one point, like we're starting the business and we lost the driver. And my husband was like, let me do it for a month. Just let me do this route for a month. Until we could get our footing. And I was like, really? But I understood it. I definitely understood. It wasn't a forever place, but to fill in a few gaps in a few areas because I had to buy another van. So now I need to make sure I make that money back. So I love what you're saying, looking at those markers and sitting down. And what I found out is that when you decide to sit down and you're looking at your performance markers, I don't care what nobody say. It makes you feel like a real true boss.
It does. Like I've worked, and I think that's important to building up your team. So you build up your team because you're gonna be like, okay, that worked, or this needs to be better. And sometimes, honestly, and I know I made it a joke about people need to be fired, but sometimes people do need to be fired because you're not hitting those goals, those markers. If we keep throwing something and it's not hitting, we got to figure out why it's not working.
Yeah. So now my next question is, how do we find you? Okay, so we're about to come up on this tax preparation season. January, we need to kind of start getting probably need to start getting things together before January.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So what you could be doing now is organizing all of your documentation. I'm actually offering a service right now called prior bookkeeping, which I'll go back and organize your books for the entire year. Go back. And so that way, when you go to your tax preparer, if you don't come to me, but if you go to your tax preparer, you're going to just hand them the statements. Everything they're going to need on those statements for your Schedule C is going to be there. So you need to organize your receipts. Definitely needs to get any 1099s that you send out have to be sent out before January 31st. So if you paid out contractors and you don't have their information, you need to contact them because sometimes they want you to pay them in their business name, which you can do. So you know, hey, do you want me to use your EIN, your social? Let me just make sure I have this information out. I would say start getting that stuff out by mid-December, going back to those business bank statements. So you can see is all the money that you made accounting for. If you use Acuity, Calendly to schedule consultations, calls, any of that nature, you need to go back and pull those reports too. So right now is the season to get everything together so you can see what you really made, what's going to be worth to deduct, and where that's going to put you at.
Got it. So how do we contact you? How do we find Miss Malika?
Oh, you can actually go on my website, www.beautybarbertaxpro.com.
And you don't deal with just the beauty industry as far as
No.
taxes. You deal with any business.
Yes,
So if I say, hey,
deal with
okay,
any business owners, any
so if I
business
said,
owners.
okay, freedom transportation, we need you. I can
Okay.
come to you and I don't have to have anything to do with the business. You take care of business as a whole, not any particular industry of business, is what I'm saying.
Yes, I take care of business as a whole. I have a monthly bookkeeping option. I have a quarterly bookkeeping option, and I actually have almost like financial services like manager where I come in and I'm your actual finance manager for the business.
So you come in and you say, hey, this is what I see. This is how we can grow the business. Do you do that type of thing?
Yes. So I started it. It's called Beauty Barber Society, but again, that's open to any business, but it's financial management for small businesses. So I fly to your city. I do a 3-day intensive with you, going through every single thing. We get a game plan together, and then from there we meet each week. And that's a 3-month service. So you will be amazed what can change in your business in 90 days. So you may not even need me after 90 days, but I'm there to put those systems and processes in place for you.
We are down to the last few minutes, but we want to really thank you so much for coming on. This was just a blessing to myself because now in my head, my mind is just like rolling, because at the end of the day, I'm in the business to win. I'm in the business to succeed. So why not have a Malika on your team? Why not have a Malika on your team in order to say, hey, we were able to be successful. We took what was innovative, what we had, but we took what she had, her skills, and we came together. So we are so glad to have you on. Your website information, please go on my page, even on social media, and tag your website because I want everyone to have access to Miss Malika. So thank you so much for coming on today. Hopefully I'll see you in Cleveland.
Yes.
Next week.
Yes, I'll be back.
Next week. I'm going to have to get on her website. But hey, guys, thank you for tuning in again to Christian Network Entrepreneurs. Today should have blessed your socks off. Not only are we going to be innovative, not only are we going to be creative, not only are we going to use the skills that God has given us, we're going to use the resources that God has provided for us. So we will see you on next month. Remember, if you don't network, you don't eat.